Good morning, good morning. I had to fire Q and replace him with our guy, Chris Drew. Good
Oh, he's
morning,
rapping
gang.
this morning.
What's that?
You're rapping this morning.
Oh, yeah, I know. I had to steal a little bit of Cam's flow. I don't got
That's a
no
bar.
Sammy Brown type of flows, but feeling a little Dr. Susie this morning. How's it going, Chris?
Good, brother. Happy to be here. Good morning.
Appreciate that. I spent all morning writing the show notes, watching interviews. And I'm like, wait a minute. We have Buckeye news. We did a live stream last night. The Buckeyes got a commitment.
They
So
did.
before we dive into wide receiver room interviews, I want to get your thoughts on 5-star commitment, Edric Houston.
Well, a couple things here, right? Like, first, you're glad that you finally got one because, there's that list that came out. We're going to get this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, all the 5 stars, including Dylan Stewart, a guy who I thought should have been a 5-star in Marquise Lightfoot. And you seem to be second place, right? We're up there for all of them until commitment date. Then you see that crystal ball flip, and all of a sudden he's not a Buckeye. This one feels good to land a 5-star from Georgia, from the same school as our guy Dylan Raiola, who I think is probably a top 15 player nationally. One of the best defensive tackles, I think, in the country, but can play inside or outside depending on necessity. And shout out to, Larry Johnson for right now having the most loaded room on defense. I mean, right now that's 2 5-stars. I know they don't have the kind of the numbers for it, but I mean, that's a really good start to the class. And unlike previous Larry Johnson years, you're getting 5 stars in early. So you want to complain about, oh, we missed this guy, or Larry doesn't land guys, year round. Probably right. But if he's going to fix it, let him try to fix it this year. And so you have 2 5-star, defensive linemen in, and you're kind of waiting and seeing on the rest of them. But I really like the kid. The kid's a really good ball player. The kid knows what he's doing. And I thought that I was worried about Bama at first. Obviously, when kids go to that damn Bama cookout, Ron, like, it's usually cooked. They taste Nick Saban's ribs, and then
Bro,
it's
that
up.
Ty Lockwood hot dog, bro. It's the closer.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, the whole Ty Lockwood thing was one of the most confusing things ever, bro. First came in the class, never wavered, never even visited anywhere. And then boom, he tasted some rib sauce and he was cooked.
That's what I'm saying, bro. We got to get some of that up in Columbus. Definitely not that bullshit that they're serving over in Ann Arbor, because that's not gonna get it done. Maybe he saw that pre-camp dinner, the lobster, the crab legs. Big boy from down south said, "I'm coming up there for that."
Yeah, for sure. He said, I gotta get me some. Trench warfare. It does feel like Ohio State's like really, I mean, like this defensive line class, the potential of it, like with those 2 huge guys that are going to be right around 300 pounds in the middle. What's that perfect for, Ron? Because to me, it sounds perfect for stopping Michigan in the long term. Like, that run game shit is dead. I would like those 2 matched up against Jordan Marshall any day of the week, and I would like them lined up against Ben Roebuck any day of the week. Like, I'll absolutely take that. And at this point in recruiting, that is what's important, and that's what I'm looking at kind of long term.
Yeah, and I mean, we for years have been complaining about the size of our interior defensive line. What is Larry's aversion to recruiting 300-pound defensive linemen or guys that can get up to that weight? Houston's at 275 now, but that kid has the frame to really pack it on, and I feel like Larry's really putting an emphasis on strengthening that interior defensive line. So I think this is a huge get for the Buckeyes. I think it's a huge win for Larry. I mean, you saw him singing Larry's praises. Both commitments in this class have really credited Larry for their commitment. So, I mean, hats off to him. I'm not taking my hat off, but you know the saying.
Yeah. Okay. And I do think Ohio State has kind of figured out a way around the negative recruiting that Larry's going to retire here pretty soon. I think he's going to be an analyst whenever he does decide to retire, and just kind of do the whole teaching thing like a guy like Tim Hinton. So right now, obviously, Houston is in, and you like that. And it gives him flexibility because he can play either or, inside or outside, Ron. And so, like, if you're not able to go get 2 defensive ends, you do feel good about him being one of the defensive ends in the class. But you gotta land multiple. I mean, last year you only landed one in Mickens, and it's kind of turned to two because Arvell has been kicked kind of to defensive end, like someone would have thought because he was fucking 16 years old and 6'4" and one of the best blitzers in the country. So that's where we're at.
Exactly. I think that's definitely going to be added to the edge there. Do you think something that we've talked about off air before is the lack of dominant edge rushers that have appeared in the transfer portal in the transfer portal era? With these potential misses at edge, do you think that that is a position that the Buckeyes will find a way to solidify in the transfer portal if they're not able to round out this class with some edge guys?
I mean, I mean, by golly gosh darn it, I sure hope so. I know we're not the biggest in the I know we're not the
Fingers
biggest in the
crossed.
tamper world. Yeah. Where's Kodak Black when you need him? Like, I hope so. Um, I do think because of how early we missed out on our top targets, I do think that Ohio State has plenty of time. I actually know Ohio State has plenty of time if they would like to go get a project kid, they can get him in the class. The issue with last year's defensive end class is that you were chasing the Keeleys, the Wilsons, the Mateos up until way, way late. And then
And
when
they were
that
all blowing
happens,
smoke up your ass the entire time.
yeah, bro. Someone said if I get a pick with LeBron, I'm committing. Took a pick with LeBron and committed somewhere else. That was not the agreement, but we're not even
This
going to
man
get
got a
into
pick
that.
with LeBron at Ohio State in his dorm at Bama. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, wild. So I do think because the big fish have come off the board early instead of us chasing them way, way late, it might end up being to the benefit of Ohio State because Larry then can take a step back and reset and go get somebody else. I know Booker Pickett Jr. Is a guy that's going to be in play, hyper productive, bro. Like
Love
high,
watch.
yeah. Hyper productive. I don't know if you know Ron, but his uncle played football at Ohio State, so
I did not know that.
he's got Ohio ties. Now his dad played football at Miami, so there's the ties there as well. But it doesn't seem like Taylor's kind of been really pushing for him, and they kind of like their class right now with Lightfoot and Rudolph. But I was told that Lightfoot still isn't maybe the most solid, and there is some belief from some of the money teams that you could circle back with him when it's time. But right now, the fact of the matter is, with the guys off the board, you have time to evaluate. Go find a late bloomer. We tout you as the GOAT. Go show us why you're the GOAT, not just in teaching, but go evaluate the shit out of somebody and bring somebody on board.
Yeah, I mean, and if you're not going to go evaluate or if you're not going to hit the road and go evaluate someone, spend an extra day or two in the office with Pantone and find someone on Huddle. There's
Yeah,
this fancy
please.
thing called the internet that'll let you recruit nationally without having to get on a plane. So tap in with our guy Mark. He's in the same building. I'm sure you guys have met before.
Bro, have you heard some of like the recruiting stories from like the pre-huddle days?
No.
Bro, these dudes, I mean, NFL players talking about, yeah, like it sucked because you had to like send your tape out like via the mail. And if a school really wanted you, they would keep the tape for a long time and wait to send it back so you couldn't send it out to any other schools that might want you.
So my buddy played high level soccer and he said, "I'm so glad that like I never posted my highlight film because the coaches would play it on road trips and laugh at kids. So like the whole team's on the bus
Oh,
traveling for a road game and they'd pull up all the freshmen's highlight and the whole team would just be cooking them the entire time. Kids juggling in their driveway, doing moves in their front yard, and the whole team's just clowning them. He was
laughing.
like, I'm just so glad that I didn't have a highlight tape that I submitted because all we did was get flamed by the coaching staff in front of the entire team.
Absurd. Definitely absurd.
So that pretty much wraps up recruiting. That was another huge get. You know what we say, the Buckeyes stop recruiting in June. So to see us add multiple 5 stars in the month of, multiple 5 stars since then is huge for the Buckeyes and exciting to see and a great way to keep this class going. But yesterday, the wide receiver room, Brian Hartline and the wide receivers met with the media, and they had some interesting things to say. So I just want to get your thoughts on that. Of course, lazily, every single person got asked about the quarterback battle. And it might as well be a wasted question. I mean, I'm surprised they didn't follow up with who did you guys vote for in the 2016 election? Like, what the fuck are we asking them at this point? Like, you know they're not going to answer. Why ask? Just fucking ask a meaningful question that you're going to get an answer from. You guys have been doing this for 20 some years for some of these people. Why not go in there and ask a question that you know you're going to get an answer for and not ask something you know they're not going to answer? As if you haven't been doing this and this isn't your paid job. Like, you don't know what type of answer you're going to get.
Agreed. Agreed. Like, go. I guess everyone's trying to quote unquote break a story, but sorry, folks, we already broke it. The
Shout
next
out to Menace to Sports.
shout out to the guys. So the next part of it is like, you know that even if like you're putting one of those players in danger of like getting in trouble, like they can't let anything slip. They're not allowed to. They're not allowed to put it on wax. They're not going to do it in front of a whole bunch of cameras. So like, be respectful to the head coach and the fucking football player. Like, come on now, and the young man. Like, can we have some just better questions, please, and thank you. So I 100% agree with you. But no, a lot interesting did come out of the wide receivers.
I guess it's part of their job to ask, but I feel again it's very disingenuous. You know they're not going to answer the question. The only way you're going to get a question is if you're going to get a 18 to 20-year-old kid to say something that he's not supposed to say. And I mean, if that's your like style of journalism, I guess pat on the back. I mean, or you could just try to be better, but whatever. Go ahead, try to trick a kid
Yeah.
into saying something you know he's not supposed to answer because you couldn't actually use your reporting skills to get the answer that you want. So
Here we go, Ron. If you want to know about the quarterback battle, how about instead of asking a kid in front of a whole bunch of cameras, how about you build a relationship, a real one, and not just a media relationship with some of the people in and around the program? Because once you do that, then it doesn't have to be that kind of thing. It doesn't have to be, I'm using you for information. You'll just learn things because people talk. Because naturally, when someone finds something out, they would like to share. Now, are they going to share it with you if they know that you run journalism like this? Fuck no.
but
But
Chris, why would you build relationships when you have a credential? You you already have your access. You're in the
Mhm,
door. The job's
mhm.
done.
The beat is like the person that does steroids and not go to the gym. Like, brother, you got the steroids. Hit the gym too. But sensitive topic around Ohio State right now. Bro, talk to me
I'm
about
sorry,
receivers.
bro. You just teed up a funny story, and it's not football related. But my college roommate, man, he had a girlfriend his freshman year in college, and she used to call him all the time and tell him, "Man, I'm putting on so much weight. I don't know why. I'm putting on weight. I don't know why." He's like, "Babe, like, what's going on?" He's like, "I don't know. Mike told me if I took creatine powder, I would get fit." It's like, "Oh, well, you're going to the gym?" She's like, "No." She's pounding creatine shakes,
Pounding it.
not working. Hilarious, man. Like, how you drinking creatine, not working out? I'm like, why am I gaining weight? I don't know. You're just pounding calorie shakes every day.
Pounding it.
So
That's
something
the
else that
beat.
Mars said super interesting. Well, he hadn't said anything interesting at that point because they opened up with a question about the quarterback battle. But a name that kept coming up in these interviews yesterday was Carnell Tate. And he said something crazy yesterday. He said that Carnell Tate is in a better place right now than Marv himself was coming into his sophomore year, which was last year. I just want to get your thoughts on that comment. And if it's true, what does it mean for this wide receiver rotation?
That is an insane endorsement. Like an actually insane endorsement. I mean, it doesn't feel like a participation, like a flower. Like, you know, when Floyd Mayweather says that about everybody, oh, he's a hell of a fighter. Like, it's like, okay, at first it's like, oh shit, like Floyd just said he's a hell of a fighter. But then after the third time, it's like, okay, like everyone's a hell of a fighter. But with Marv, we never really hear Marv give major flowers like that. And to know that you could have a version of last year's Marvin Harrison Jr. in the room right now strengthens what's kind of been coming out of the Woody, that he is the best freshman receiver since Ryan Day got there. And like as soon as those concentration drops go away, the sky is the absolute limit. And it makes sense because during the recruitment process, he was highly like sought after by Brian Hartline when maybe he wasn't by some other schools. And on it might end up helping the branch miss that kind of hurts me to this day because the way they talk about Carnell Tate in terms of getting open, getting in and out of breaks, being able to run routes at full speed, being physical at the release point, and being able to go up and get a ball while also being fluid. Like I just I just don't know how you keep him off the field. And the more you hear Ryan Day talk about him, Brian Hartline talk about him, now maybe the best player on your team talk about him, how do you keep him off the field?
I kind of want to flip that question on you because if you don't know how you keep him off the field, do you know how you get him on the field? And where do you see him fitting in? And what would that wide receiver rotation look like? Because he's been repping at X all off season. You have Emeka locked in at the slot. How does that shake up that rotation? Who moves where? Do you just put Carnell in at Z? Do you slip? Do you slide Marvin to the slot like we saw sometimes last year and let Emeka play Z and have Carnell out there at the X and have just matchup nightmares galore? How do you envision that playing out if he were to break that rotation in the top three?
One of the things I asked Zach about on the show was how different is the X from the Z, and he said in Ryan Day's offense they're pretty interchangeable. And so when he says that, it's like okay, like if he's repping behind Marv, that means Marv is kind of leading the way, but also he can play the Z if needed. So
Can play the Z if needed as far as skill set and similar route concepts, but like at what point do you have to start knowing both roles, especially as a true freshman? You
wait, he said
when
both roles are like almost identical, I guess.
so as far as you don't think it's a double load as far as understanding the playbook as knowing the routes for both positions?
Yeah, maybe it's a little bit expansive, but all the routes you run at the X, you'll run at the Z. Maybe just the looks to the quarterback look a little bit different, but it's much easier than trying to like cross train a corner to play safety, which we love to do for everybody.
Or a quarterback?
Yeah. Honestly, it's funny. Like I'm wondering if Carnell Tate will do the thing that like Ryan Day has avoided since he got to Ohio State, and that's go four wide. Because if Carnell Tate is that good and you don't want to pull Julian Fleming off the field, it makes me wonder, like in terms of like separation points and like being that much better than somebody else. It's like if I can grow the separation point, because honestly, whose fourth best DB is better than Carnell Tate?
I don't think there's a team in America.
Like that's what we saw LSU do. LSU said we recruit the receiver position really well. We have four guys who we think can play. We're going to go four wide because we think our wide receiver recruiting and development is better than your DB recruiting and development. And we want to force you to try to stop us. And at least at some point in some game, maybe in a 2-minute drill, maybe you explore having that four wide. If you're that locked in with Julian Fleming and you don't want to pull him off the field, then fuck it. Put someone else on the field.
You have to have the utmost confidence, though, that you're going to be able to succeed in the pass game when you go wide. Brian Day has talked about this numerous times over the year and what his hesitancy is to go four wide. And it feels like it makes them too predictable because it's so hard for them to run out of that and are so unlikely to run out of that. It feels like it makes them too predictable. So do you
But
feel
does Baby Burrow fix that? I
and
mean, DB.
you're getting a little crazy out here now. We went from this guy's the starter to now he's the best quarterback in college football that we've seen in the last 20 years. But do you think that there's enough talent in that room that it can overcome that predictability? Like, we're coming out, and it's almost like Michigan, they're going to run the ball. They're telling you every week, we're going to come out and punch you in the fucking mouth. I think we have a similar level of talent at wide receiver that it's like, yeah, we're going to come out and throw it. Fucking stop us. Did I lose Chris
Yeah.
Drew?
I mean, I guess, huh?
Oh no, I thought I lost you there.
Oh, no, 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 no. I, um I guess, like, the NFL and Ryan Day doesn't want him to be predictable, and honestly, like, if we wouldn't go 4 wide last year with Paris and DeWand as our tackles, I do think it would be tricky for us to go 4 wide this year, but, like, in a 2-minute situation, like, right before the half, we're not gonna run the ball anyway, and honestly, Ryan Day says this and then turns around and gets pass happy as hell, so I really don't know. I really don't know. I would like to see 4 wide sometimes. I think that's okay. The same way that, like, you go 2 tight ends, running back in the game, it's gonna be a run play most times, right? Maybe. I don't know, we
That's
go in
true.
tight, like on 3rd and 1, we know we're gonna run the ball, right?
Are we?
No, we're gonna throw,
A
uh
slot fade to fucking Cade Stover, bro.
yeah.
Excuse me, I'm gonna go cry. One of the other questions that Marv got asked, he got asked about Emeka being healthy and what that means, and he said that he has noticeable explosion, and that's something that we talked about a lot last year about dead legs in that room, but also the injuries that Emeka was battling through. How much do you think a healthy Emeka means for this team, especially for Marv with the threat that he's going to be? Because I mean, you talk about do teams have a fourth corner that can cover Carnell? How many teams have a second wide receiver on their team like a Emeka Ibuka? I mean, I think he's wide receiver one at every other school in the country other than Ohio State.
Yeah, the Emeka story last year was one of the more, under talked about things in all of Ohio State, mainly because a lot of his, like, injuries and, like, being nicked up kind of hit the wayside, like, was not talked about because everybody else on the team was damaged and beat up. I mean, we had running backs, one was healthy every week. We had to rotate through, swap them around. But here's a fact: Emeka had a super impressive year last year, about 100 less yards than Marv when he dealt with a lot more. I mean, that's a guy that it's been talked about in Ryan Day's offense. That slot position is so important. It's difficult, and JSN was repping the shit out of it all the way up through. So when JSN gets hurt, you're asking Emeka to go. You just repped it. You just repped it Z all spring. Like, you repped it at Z all camp because you were going to get a lot of work out there. Now we need you to go fill in that slot role and learn it on the fly in a pretty complex Ryan Day offense while you're hurt, and also go be productive. And he was able to kind of check all those boxes. We saw how his legs looked when he got some time off against Georgia. He looked so explosive, like looked like the most explosive receiver on the team. And so I think this year could be huge for Emeka. I think Emeka having all this time to kind of work in a slot and at the Z, during spring and fall camp is going to turn things around. And honestly, like, I wouldn't be surprised if, because of how the Ryan Day offense is constructed, if he leads the team in receptions and maybe yards, because I do think he's that. And I also think he's best with the ball in his hands out of between him and Marv.
I think he's absolutely the best yards after catch guy. Marv actually got asked about that in the interview, and they asked him. He said in the off season that he wanted to improve his yards after catch, and they asked him, "How do you do that?" And he said, "Game reps." It's like you
Hmm.
can't really practice that when you're playing two hand touch in practice. So we'll see if he's able to actually take that next step this year. And he also talked about training against David Igbinosun this offseason. And he said that they have been battling. You hear iron sharpens iron come out of the Woody Hayes Athletic Facility all the time. And Marv was saying after every practice, David's asking him, "Do you want to work on releases?" And they're getting an extra 30 minutes in. So, what does that big body corner challenge Marv every day?
It's I, I I said on the Menace of Sports show, Igmanosin is the best thing to happen for Marv in terms of development this year. Like, one of the things that I wish Marv did a little better was be more physical at the line and kind of start to bully corners. And Igbenogson is probably a top 3 most physical corner in all of college football. He's gonna grab you, he's gonna push you, he's gonna jam you, he's going to force you to get good at releases. And Marv, when he's locked in, we've seen it before. A lot of really good releases. In that Utah game was releasing the shit out of some running backs. But last year at times, it did feel like because he knew how gifted he was, he did have some lazy releases and some lazy routes. With Igbinosun, he's physically imposing and can move you off your spot. So it's going to force Marv to get even more polished, which honestly leads me to think that he could take another significant step. And it's scary for a guy that size to have the reps against a corner that physical to force him to take that leap and be more physical at the line of scrimmage. So I'm really excited for it. And I'm glad that Igbinosun has that kind of that work dog mentality and will be there with Marv. Because that's one of the things that gets talked about. Like once Marv leaves, Ron, you're gonna get like the Kobe Bryant level stories about his work ethic. And it sounds like Igbinosun is with him every step of the way. It's like, nah, nigga, fuck that Monarch machine. Get on the line and let's work on these releases. And I love that about Igbinosun, and I love that Marv kind of acknowledged that.
Yeah, that was great to hear from Marv, and I'm glad that he's really out there being challenged, and it's not just, like you said, him running out there with the jugs.
Yeah, that Monarch machine's cool. We know you can catch the ball. Come, strap up, bro.
They better get like the Juju Smith-Schuster bike chain on that thing, because Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be trying to sneak that thing out of the facility at the end of the year and take it with
Yeah.
him.
No, bro. So here we go. Fun fact, Ron. He got a Monarch deal.
What?
He has a Monarch NIL deal. That's one of his one of his NIL deals.
Oh, he said, "Give me one of them."
Yeah, he
Send
said
it to
I
the crib.
actually need one.
I hit the Ohio State guys are pretty resourceful with their NIL. They're like, I don't want a bag. I need a new toothbrush. Someone give me a deal.
I need a new tractor. We're Decade Stover.
Yeah, exactly. We're Decade Stover.
That's what he said. He said I'd rather get tractors than money.
That's crazy.
And it's crazy for him to say that. And then at their house, they have to jump the lawnmower every time they want to cut the grass.
What are we doing here?
That's what I'm saying.
Schottenstein, get this man a new push mower. What are we doing out here?
So I'm saying, like you got Tommy and Cade and Steele in the same house, and they gotta jump the lawnmower every time they want to cut the grass.
What are we doing? I just got a call from HR. I mean, I had a talk with Q yesterday. I said I'm fucking done with you. All this love for Indiana, apologizing for Michigan,
in Maryland.
Yeah, saying the Buckeyes are gonna fall off after this year. I had enough, bro. I'm just done with Aaron Scott's brother, and I had to kick him off the show. But HR called me and said I can't term his contract because it's gonna cost me too much money. I already put the down payments down for his 2 Rolls Royces at the BDMG Christmas party. So we have to keep our guy Q. So I'm gonna bring him on to the show here.
Bro, don't let him lie to you. These niggas don't pay me at all. This is costing me money.
Bro, it's like, did you guys see that NBA post?
No, what is that?
No.
Someone posted from the official NBA Facebook. Yeah, and was like, how do I log out of this thing? Anyway, I quit weeks ago. Like, basically, this place sucks. They don't pay me enough. They overwork me. So I had to get up out of here. It was comedy.
He was complaining about health insurance, but I mean, we have great benefits here at BDMG. If you need any vacation, if you need health insurance, we send you a bottle of Truth or Juice and tell you to toughen up. So
that's all you need. That's all you need.
That is the only medicine and health insurance that we got around here. But I want to keep it rolling with these interviews. Mecca talked about Carnell again, and he said that he's a trash talker in that room. And one thing that Denzel Burke said in his interviews last week is that these Zone 6 guys don't really talk. What do you think? I know Carnell's from Chicago, but he did play for SFE. He's been in South Florida for the past couple years at IMG. Brandon Ennis, a South Florida guy. Bryson Rogers from Florida, not South Florida. But what do you think these Florida guys are going to add to this room? Because I know we didn't have talkers before, but it sounds like we have some talkers in there. He said that Carnell will be the first one to let you know if you had a drop in practice.
Man, I would say, well, first, I'm surprised Marvin Harrison Jr. isn't more of a trash talker because, bro, I'm gonna let you know there's a reason God didn't give me those gifts to go out and make plays like that. Because if I did, oh dear Jesus, you'll be you'll be fighting me by the second quarter. I'll be like, damn, dude, you better go back to D2. I don't know what you're doing out here. Anyway, but no, these
Boo.
yeah,
That's a Rotten Tomato insult. We need some real insults, Q.
bro. Y'all know Chris like 5'7", right? Anyway, so so
Yeah, look at
anyway,
fighting
bro,
my core too, for sure.
I'll be talking crazy, but
They be coming
yeah,
back with all the light skin jokes. Let's be for real.
chill out. But no, I mean, I think these Florida guys is definitely going to bring some attitude to it, and that's what I love to hear. I love to hear Carnell Tate getting after these DBs. Brandon Ennis, we just know Brandon Ennis going to talk trash. So I'm like, yeah, bro, let's get it. Let's get some attitude in this room. Let's go make plays, and let's let people hear about it. That's the kind of attitude I want to bring.
I knew Ennis was on shit in his black stripe video when he broke off somebody, snapped somebody's whatever, and then pointed to them as he's going in to score. I'm like, oh yeah, if you're doing that to your own teammates, like you definitely have that extra shit to you. Like to point at somebody as you're scoring because you just broke them is crazy. And I agree with you, Q. If I had gifts like that, oh dear Jesus, I'll be the worst. I'd make sure every game we go into, I knew all the corners' girlfriends' first names. I promise you that would be the thing. I would know their first names. If it was 3rd and 7 and I caught a 5-yard slant, I would toss the ball. I'd be like, tell Rebecca I said what's good, and then just jog back to the huddle. Like I would be on that the whole game. So I would probably get fought too. And I think my insults are better than telling someone to go back down to D2. But who am I?
My favorite thing that I've heard, and like it's not even a crazy trash talk, but it was just so funny to hear this story. When Michael Jordan, he would start games, he would score his first bucket and then say 38. Then he would score his second bucket and say 36. And they're like, damn, if he get to 0, he just put 40 on my head.
That is crazy. No, but
Percent.
the best insult ever is that you should have been a beverage. Like that one goes crazy. That one will stop anybody dead in their tracks.
I was sitting here spinning it in my head. I was like, Chris hasn't said it yet. Am I gonna have to deliver it? Because I didn't know if he was gonna say it on the show. But that would absolutely make me want to fight you like Cortland Finnegan and Andre Johnson. Like we'd out there be rumbling. You call me a beverage while we're out here competing on an athletic endeavor, like we gotta fight. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's past the point of football anymore. It cannot be settled on the gridiron. It has to be settled with fisticuffs.
Yeah, that's the one that stops anybody dead in their tracks. Like, man, you really should have been a beverage, but that's none of my business. And then keep it pushing. Like that one will boom. But shout out to the SFE boys because not only are they talking shit, but they seem to be both playing really well. I mean, obviously the rave, it's been rave reviews for Carnell Tate. And then you saw that, even though Ennis got there late, if you look in the grand scheme of practice time, he got his black stripe off really early when you really sit back and think about it.
Yeah, he did.
And all the SFE guys get a lot of hype, and I want to apologize to Bryson Rogers right now. He was the second receiver to get his black stripe off in this room. We had our guy Anon on, and he talked about the 3-headed monster in the freshman class. Bryson Rogers, a super underrated guy, always gets forgotten when we talk about these wide receivers. Emeka Buka had a really interesting note. So they have a stats board up for zone 6 in the locker room. And he said he was looking at it the other day. And he said that Bryson Rogers has a 90% completion percentage when targeted this fall.
That boy getting open. Talk about creative separation. He going crazy.
I don't know what show I said it on, but of the group, he's the best at generating separation. He's so light on his feet. Really, really explosive. And he looks like he's still growing at a pretty significant clip because now I don't know if you guys saw him next to Ballard. He looks taller than Ballard. And he's a guy that talked about just like work on the route tree was the most important thing for him. Like just being able to run every route, being able to play all 3 receiver positions. Looks like he has the feet to play in the slot. He said he likes to play the X, but is fast enough to play the Z. He told me when he came on for an interview that he was the fastest of the freshman receivers. And he said I'll race anybody to confirm that. And if he's creating separation and Lincoln is throwing in the rock and he's 90%, take it. I want to see him back there returning kicks and punts, but I think that's for after I get removed from the show.
Yeah, man. I remember. I always remember when we got the Bryson Rodgers commitment. I think he was only what, like a 3-star at the time. It was,
Yep,
it was something
3-star.
crazy. Yeah, and like he had got some flack from the fan base of like, why are we get 5 stars every year? Why are we taking 3-star? And I'm like, I cut on this dude's film, and I'm like, one, who's ever ranking him is insane. Just by his clips alone. But I'm like, this dude's an absolute dog. His route running, like, if you walk out on Friday and you see this dude balling, you're like, okay, where's he going? He's got to be going somewhere big time. So just they did him to disservice in the ranking, but he's an absolute dog. I love the way he works. I love his attitude. We've talked to him on multiple occasions. Just a grown man in like a 17, 18-year-old's body. Like he knows he gets his lunch pail, he goes to work and he works hard. So big time Bryson Rodgers.
No, the ranking system super fucked up. When the top 2 schools that you're deciding between are Alabama and Ohio State, and you're a 3-star, someone needs to look in the mirror and decide that they don't know about recruiting rankings. That's simply what that is.
And also,
Imagine like sitting there with your little 247 hat on, like I know more than Brian Hartline and Nick Saban.
That's exactly it. I mean, even after he committed, I don't know if anybody knows this, but even after he committed to Ohio State, Bama was still pushing to get him on campus, still trying to recruit him. So that kid is definitely much better than his ranking. From Florida, gonna be a really good player. And I'm excited for him, but naturally he will remain underrated, right? Because when you generate a lot of separation, you catch a slant, it's like, okay, cool. And then but when Noah Rogers is catching the ball off defenders' back, it's like, oh my God, look at his freaky ball skills. Look at that. That's a highlight play. So naturally he'll remain underrated, but a really good player, and I'm excited about him and for him. And he's been rocking with BDMG since early. Like he's rocked with everybody since way back in the Spaces days. So really excited for Bryce, and that's a great stat. And again, Lincoln Kinos back there, like, fuck it.
He's out
One
there
of the
somewhere.
Rogers, one of the Rogers is down there.
Yeah, and the only concern there is the weight. I think if we can get him on the Denzel Burke sophomore diet, Little Debbie's and Lobster Mac from Jeff Ruby's, he's gonna
I
fill
tried the
out.
mac and cheese from Jeff Ruby's, and I'm not mad at Denzel. I'm not mad at him.
You can't blame him. I swear, bro, lived at Jeff Ruby's last year.
I would too if I could afford it.
Well, that lobster mac sound crazy. That was like the one time Chris bought me dinner and I had lobster lasagna.
Oh yeah,
Bro,
fire.
that joke was crazy.
Damn, Chris out there treating you like a bad bitch. I got vegan nachos.
Chris was holding it down. Yeah, you got
lobster.
Rob, bro.
This nigga got lobster lasagna, and I got fucking vegan nachos, bro. I now see where I rank in the pecking order. Shit,
bro. I think I called Chris while he was lit. That's what I think it was. I called Chris. I was like, I was lit. He was lit. I'm like, yo, what up?
No, I wasn't lit. I think I had a concussion. I just boxed like 4 rounds. I was like feeling my face. I couldn't feel that shit. And then like I'm on the phone with Q, and I'm like, fuck it, everybody eats.
And like, yo, I want to buy you dinner. I was like, all right.
Yeah. that's how it was going. That's how it was going.
Let me know next time you box.
One more thing I wanted to hit on from the Mecca interview before we move on is that he said that Julian Fleming is becoming much more of a vocal leader, and he's now the second person to tell us that. Q, do you remember who else told us that way before wide receiver interviews?
Anon. He said
Anon. We had Anon come on after the open practices, practice 1 and 2, and we said, who are the most vocal coaches and who are the most vocal players out there? And he kind of chuckled because he knew we weren't going to like the answer. And he said, Julian Fleming had an awful day, but you could tell he was a leader out there. He had a rough day at camp, but still was that voice on the field. So I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts. Does that surprise you, like that Julian Fleming has stepped into such a vocal role?
Maybe it does surprise me a little bit. I think it does surprise me because I think that naturally the way the fan base is kind of called for things to change. You would think that would kind of lead to a guy being checked out, but he seems to get it. I mean, Julian Fleming has obviously had an intriguing career at Ohio State. Injuries have played a big part in it. Number 1 player in the country. per ESPN. Like all of that went into it. So he did come in with a little extra hype and had, a lot of times people talk about blue chip personalities, like almost being a diva is kind of things that get hinted with being kind of that. So it's really refreshing and good to hear that Fleming has been a vocal leader and has really bought in and does feel the way of the brotherhood. I mean, that makes me feel like this team is on a championship run even more, because when you have a guy like that is a vocal leader, that maybe when they're not having the best day will still look to elevate everybody else. That's much better than the guy that has the towel over the head when they don't have a great day. So
Yeah.
I feel really good about that from Julian Fleming. He was one of the guys I had on my list, Q. I don't know about you, that I thought was going to end up being a captain this year, because we
Yeah.
had heard that he was, he won. I think he was one of mixed champions too in this offseason. So I'm rooting for Julian Fleming. I know he's been beat up. I know that this has not been kind of the road or path he envisioned for himself as the number one wide receiver. But to know that he is being vocal and helping out the young guys, to me, is really, really important.
Yeah, man, I've just been and that's great to hear. I mean, he's in his 4th year. He's come in, he
Yeah.
was highly recruited and all that stuff, but it's good to see him take that leadership role. And I think parts of this is what makes this team different. Of usually we'll have a Evan Spencer, we'll have guys like that who are maybe not like your first round prototypes, but they bring so much attitude and so much presence to this room, and it just levels up the room. The crazy thing about Julian is he's got a first round body. He's got first round athleticism if he can stay healthy and just put all those things together. And that's what we waited for so long. Like we waited, like, okay, like last year we thought he was going to put it together. We started to see a little bit of it. Then he dropped off a little bit at the end of the season. But to know his mindset's right, as long as his body's hold up, and we're all rooting for him, because I still believe he can go out and be a 3rd rounder or, be a 4th rounder if he really puts everything together. But to see him take that leadership role and be like, hey, I'm not the guy here. Mars clearly the guy. Emeka's probably running 2, but I still have service to put in this room. I still set the attitude. I set the tone. I've been here the longest, I guess besides Xavier Johnson. But just all that and taking that role of, even if I don't have a good day, this room is not going to have a bad day. That is the thing that starts to separate teams from just being good to great. And that's the push this room needs. And that's the leadership this room needs. Because like we talked about earlier, team ain't got a lot of trash talkers. I mean, we got dogs on the field, but so much of that is attitude, it's presence. It's like, yeah, like you can make plays, but when you start to bring that attitude on, teams really feel it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's just a different level. Like, you love, like when I was playing athletics and we were playing against a really good player, like he's not talking, but he's like putting in work. It's like, okay, like, this sucks. Like he's cooking. I can deal with that. But when you add that to somebody who's really letting you know about it, they're scoring, it's almost demoralizing.
Well, it's Kawhi Leonard versus Kobe Bryant.
Yeah, it's like it starts to get demoralizing of like, he's talking, he's beating me, he's driving past me, or he's catching a touchdown over me. And now I'm starting to feel like that on myself. I'm feeling that internal pressure. And eventually that breaks people, especially when you're better than them. So I want that attitude for this room. I think Julian taking that leadership role is amazing, and I'm just excited for him. I'm hoping he breaks out. I'm hoping he holds that wide receiver 3 spot and puts it together. And I know he's injured in the spring, but I'm hoping this summer he really put in work. He's really gotten better. I think Zach the other day said Julian has gotten better, and he played well in the Georgia game. So I'm just hoping, he can really become what we thought he was, and at least be a mid-round pick.
You know what that Georgia game should do for eye-opening reasons?
What?
The Georgia game should force Brian Hartline to take the Larry Johnson approach. Remember, Larry Johnson in his interview said, I want to see guys playing at full speed for as many plays as they can, and then when they're not, take them out of the game.
Yeah.
I want to see Julian Fleming out there playing full speed, 5 or 6 plays, and then if he gets tired or whatever, immediately put in Ballard until Ballard can't go full speed, and then put Fleming back in, let him go full speed. I mean, that's a simple way to rotate.
Yeah.
And keep kind of the most explosive athletes in the game, because really that's what you want a wide receiver. You want game changers, and both of them being able to play as fast as possible makes them and this offense even more difficult to deal with, especially if you got one corner out there, because corners don't get to rotate like that. Like people don't really corners that we recruit receivers. So wear guys out, play explosive. You need guys like Fleming on the team. Maybe not all about the crazy numbers, but we call those glue guys. And if you
Yeah.
go out there and play full speed and hit those corner threes in clutch moments,
I need
let's
those.
roll with it. But also, we need to see Ballard as well. And honestly, we're going to need to see Tate because we're going to be losing at least 2, maybe 3 receivers from this room. So the young guys got to be ready. That is how I feel. Who would you rather Fleming split time with at the Z? Carnell Tate or Jaden Ballard?
I would say Jaden Ballard. All the hype we're getting out of Carnell Tate, he sounds like an X, man. He sounds like your number one guy. I would love to see him behind Marv and give him rest times. I know Brian Hartline wants to play Marv until he literally can't walk off the field, exhausted. I would love to see it. I mean, if he's all the hype people talk about, Marv said he's better than me when I was going my sophomore year,
which is
which I have
to.
I love all the hype. I gotta see it.
Now I gotta believe that shit, man.
Yeah, I'm not believing it until I was like, that sound good. But I think Jaden Ballard, it's his time, man. He's another guy highly recruited coming in. They just the way this coaching staff has done things and not the criticism because Brian Harline has done an excellent job in this room. And it's not just him, but his overall coaching staff is like, we hear about these guys, we wait for them to show up, and it seems like they wait so long before they get their opportunity, and then they show up like Malik Hooker, and it's like, wait, what? Like, who is he sitting behind? Like, this dude's one of the best we've seen in a while, and like, it just like my trust is like, I need to see it on the field. Like, put him on the field. Let me see what he can actually do. And then I could be like, okay, I see why you're playing him, or I see why you're not playing him, or I'm like, why is he in more? So Jaden Ballard, it's his time. He should be splitting reps. He's a speed guy. I mean, Ron talked about it. He wears that number 9. Like, he's the fast guy. You talked about it as well from Maslin. It's his time to go. So I would love to see him and then Carnell Tate at X. And start to rotate these guys in. Let's get this deep room, man. I'm tired of the guys looking slow against Michigan and Georgia and all that late in the season. Like, let's get this room bumping. And as good as this room is, like Ron said, the 2023 class, but even the class we have, these guys should not leave here without a ring.
I got something for you, Q.
Uh-huh.
How in the second half of games we got really, run happy when we're blowing teams out. We're not trying to throw the ball. Kyle McCord's hardly throwing. Devin Brown has no pass attempts. This year, Ryan Day is going to be calling a number. Ryan Day is going to be opening up games, calling plays. Yeah. I think that he'll get Brian Hartline experience in the second half calling games. And because of that, I think we'll throw the ball more in the second half because we're trying to get Brian Hartline the reps as a play caller. And with that, I also think he'll use that to get the young guys more playing time and get them more balls.
Yeah.
You.
I'm rocking with that, man. I think that that's a good point. Brian Hartline, especially when we're blowing teams out later in games, are going to get time to play, and he's going to want to run the offense. He's going to want that experience, and that's big time for the development of not only the wide receivers but the entire offense and the quarterback. Because Kyle McCord threw less passes last year than Drew Aller, and he's got a year over him. And I know Drew Aller played again, but I'm talking about significantly. He only threw he had 17 attempts last year, Kyle McCord?
Something like that, and they were all rollouts, bro.
Yeah, it was something crazy. So I always say Ryan Day puts on his best Dean Smith impression, but I would love to see them actually roll it out there and let young guys play and give these guys experience.
Last year, we dedicated every second half to trestle ball. Bro, we ran that PA rollout. That was the only time we ever let Kyle McCord throw the ball, and we've literally never let any other quarterback run that.
Yeah, no, it was
Justin Fields wasn't doing that. CJ Stroud wasn't doing that. Dwayne Haskins for damn sure wasn't doing that. It's that rollout. Flip it to Ballard.
Got running the 10-yard out and throw it. And Cam had a question in the chat of guys. He said Kojo and Kyon Graves. Do you think transfer out? What do you expect from those two guys this year? I know we talked about that 22 class and how much they were in danger of getting passed up. Those two guys have stuck around. They're still here. We've heard good things about both of them at Spurs. Kojo, we've heard he's had a good camp. What do you expect from those two guys? And do you think they just get passed up and are out of here? Or do you think they somehow stronghold and keep a spot somewhere in this room?
I'm not sure what those two dudes can do. Like I have no clue what they can do. But Kojo, I heard, had a really good spring and has made some pretty big flash plays, at least in the
Mhm.
fall to this point. I heard Gray's had some concentration drops. I mean, that seems to be kind of one of the young player things, but I don't know. Honestly, I think they get passed up personally, just because I do think this 23 class is ridiculous. And I wouldn't be surprised if a Georgia tampered with Kojo, considering their recent misses at wide receiver. But I think we'll know really early. I think we'll know by week 2 if those guys are going to end up playing for Ohio State or not. If I'm being completely honest.
Yeah, because I would love to see them on the field to see what they can do. I know Kojo, like you say, he's made some wild plays in camp. I think he's more of a I don't know. What Kojo was like a Z? I think they're both like Z's.
I think they're both slots.
Or you think they're slot? I don't think Kion's a slot. I think Kion is like your Devin Smith if guy. He's supposed to be the one stretching the field,
You're
going
just
down.
saying that because he's light skinned.
No, I'm not. I'm saying that because that's what they make him do. Every time you see the highlight from Kojo, he's running to go.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Keon.
I mean, Keon, my fault. Keon, yeah. Every time you see him, he's running to go. Literally, you're right on the right side of the field, running to go.
By every time, are you talking about that one clip during bowl prep?
No, I've seen him do it in camp highlights as well. He's running to go.
You're right.
In the spring game, he ran goes. Like that's what he talked about his speed when they talked to him during spring ball. Like that's what he does. So
I was just going through all of my videos that I save randomly, and one of the ones that I had, it was a video of Quinn Ewers throwing the ball to Keon.
Yeah.
And it was like, you're going to be seeing a lot of this in the future. And I'm like, damn.
Saw none of that.
No, you're not. You're not going to be seeing a motherfucking thing of this in the future. That shit's over and dead. It's gone.
Oh, man. But, yeah, big season for them. Hopefully they can, make an impact and show us what they can do. But they have they're a high danger zone of it's now or never for them.
Welcome back, Ron.
Thanks. I mean, I tried to join the stream, but my camera was a little fuzzy, so had some issues there. I hear we're talking 2022 wide receivers.
Yeah, our favorite.
I do have to roll out, guys. I'm so sorry.
No problem. I appreciate you holding it down.
For sure. Appreciate you both. Bye,
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. So before we get out of here, Q, we got a couple more notes from the wide receiver interviews. A big shout out to Chris Drew for filling in for us. I had to step away for a moment, so he was here a little longer than we had him scheduled. So a big thank you to him. The last thing that I had was Brian Hartline's actual interview. He said he hasn't felt a lag from Brandon Inniss despite just enrolling. So I just want to get your thoughts on that. These SFE kids are really just coming in and making a statement. You really can't say enough about that program down there and what 7-on-7 means to these kids, because you can tell the difference in development from these kids that are playing football year round and how prepared that they're coming in. And that's something that he touched on about all this 7-on-7 that they're playing. Yes, guys don't have that. They're not being tackled year round, but that constant repetition, they're constantly battling against DBs. They're constantly repping their routes. It just puts them so ahead coming in. You got 3 guys from Florida that have played 7-on-7 all through high school, and clearly showing, because last year we saw guys in that 22 class not getting their black stripes off until bowl prep. I mean, we have 2 weeks. We're 2 weeks out We're 2 weeks out from the first week of the game, or the first game of the year, and every wide receiver in this freshman class has their black stripe off. I just want to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, man. So obviously, starting back with the point you touched on last year, clearly those guys weren't ready to make that transition. They weren't clearly as prepared as it did take them a long time. I mean, we were like, have they got their black shots removed today? Like, they still did we miss a couple videos? I had to question, make sure they actually had got their black stripes removed. But jokes aside, these guys have been prepared and ready to go. And Brandon Inniss, like you touched on, with they down there, they play football 24/7. Everything that he's done probably a million times to this point. And it's just got that familiarity and so much repetition that he came in prepared to play. Brandon Inniss was the only overall 5-star in the Big Ten, which is just crazy for the conference. What are y'all doing? Go recruit somebody. But him and Cardell Tate at different places were 5 stars, but yeah, he was the only one overall. And like you called him months ago, the boogeyman of this room, of a guy who's going to come in and instantly demand playing time, especially with JSN walking out the door. Big shout out to Brandon Ennis. Heard he's come in, heard he's acclimated quickly, and heard he's making plays. Getting the black stripe removed so quickly, it was like, dang, he just got here. He's been here for, I mean, he's got here in the summer, but it feels like school started. This dude a week later, it's already got his black stripe off. So big time credit to him, man. He looks like a dude. His body is right. He looks like he's ready to play. I mean, the legend of Brandon Ennis has been going on for what, six years now. You've maybe heard about this guy. I heard about him like years and years ago.
Playing varsity as an 8th grader.
Yeah, I wasn't even following like recruiting like that. And I heard about this dude, Brandon Ennis. So more power to him. The legend continues to grow. Can't wait to see what he does. I think as much hype as we got Cardell Tate, because he's been here and he's been legitimate, Brandon Ennis is going to find a way in this rotation. He's going to find a way to get on the field. He's going to find a way to make his impact felt. How big that will be with this deep room, we don't know yet, but he is a guy who I felt like is going to be at times where the season where it'd be like, oh, okay, like this dude is coming. He's next up, just like we got shades of Garrett early. We got shades of Chris Olave early. So I think he's going to follow in that line.
Absolutely. Another thing that came up during Brian Hartline's interviews was, I didn't even notice this until, and shout out to the beat, because I rarely give them their flowers. Great question. I don't know who asked it, but someone brought up the fact that Brian Hartline has had the past 2 Block O candidates in his room. What type of standard is he setting in that room? And I feel like just that honor being placed on 2 people in his room shows the type of character required to be a part of that room and part of the evaluation that's going into the guys that are being brought into that room. So I just wanted you to speak on that. And did that even surprise you? Did that register when XJ got named the Block O candidate, that, oh, the wide receiver room has now produced 2 of 3 Block O candidates?
Yeah, I honestly didn't think about it now until you're bringing it up. But obviously we got to go back. Like, shout out to Zach Smith and the experience he left that room with. And you talk about when these guys would talk, they would say Paris and Terry McLaurin and Johnny Dixon, and those were the guys who set the path. They set the standard, and going from there, it has continued. I mean, Cam Babb, almost like God said, when you would see that dude talk and you would feel his presence, you understood why he had so much respect for the team. And it was like, I don't know, man. I had times where I'm looking up to this dude, and he how many years younger? I was like, this is a grown man, bro. So it was super cool. In XJ, we really got to really learn about him last season and learn what kind of presence he built and how much he was a dog on the field and just a leader by example. And even though he wasn't the best player, you wouldn't know it when you saw him walk out there. His attitude, his ability to make plays, ability to do anything for the team is just amazing. So yeah, excuse me, the presence in that room is amazing. I mean, I remember Kion Graves when I first saw him when he was interviewing with Berm. I'm like, this is a dude I would want at Ohio State. And he's not even one of the frontline guys. He's not the guy making plays. He's not maybe the next star, but just the attitude he brings is just like, wow. Like, I see the guys Brian Hartline is going after, and it's so important to that room. And Bryson Rogers, I mean, the Block O is so much of like, sometimes it's adversity you've gone through, and then sometimes it's just guys who do the right thing and stick around. But if those guys were to stick around, I would say Bryson or Kion would be Block O candidates just by their attitude and the presence of what they bring to the team. And it's just like, Brian Hartline really picks character well, which is very hard in this game where you're dealing with the best athletes in America. I don't know how these dudes stay so humble. Like I said earlier, I don't know how they do it. I would be talking crazy, but that's why I got the Block O. So just impressive how he's built this room together and continues to build this room.
So I see that we have 70 people in here. I want to thank you guys all for being in here with us this morning. Make sure you smash that like button. I want to be sure to remind you guys, make sure that you download that Bleacher Report app. I will be live today in the Bleacher Report app at 2 p.m. doing an Ohio State season preview. So make sure you tap in today on the Bleacher Report app for the Ohio State season preview. I got one more question for you, Q, before we get out of here. Do you think the talent in this room acts as a screening process for the type of guys coming in, because if you're a type of guy that doesn't want to compete and wants things handed to you, and you look at this wide receiver room, this ain't the room to come in here and rest on your laurels. So I just want to get your thoughts of what the talent in this room does for recruiting, and do you think that scares away guys that might not be ready to work as hard as you need to work in this Ohio State wide receiver room?
I think it's definitely a screening process, and for two things. One, you're not coming in just getting the bag. Like, like it's not just like a handout. You're gonna have to come in and work. And two, just the amount of talent in here. So both that plays a role in one, you got to be willing to bet on yourself. And the way things have run now, it's felt like guys are just like, sometimes they chase a bag or sometimes they do that. The best players in the country are in this room. So one, you're not going to walk in and just get all the highlights, get all the NIL deals and do like that. You're going to have to put your head down and work, which testaments to your character. And also too, just coming here, it's a risk that you may never play. So you have to be a legitimate dog and you have to be a legitimate grinder to even step in this room. And that's coming from Marvin Harrison Jr. himself. And you see what he is, and he's telling you, you're looking for a check, don't come here. You looking out to work hard, don't come here, because you'll get both of those things. You're gonna be out the door very quickly. So I think testament to Brian Hartline again of how he's built this room. And yeah, this is maybe for the best athletes in America, this is maybe the hardest room to walk in the country, given those circumstances. So your mindset has to be right. And I think that is why you're getting such a good quality of guys, from Carnell Tate to Brandon Ennis to Kyon Graves to Bryson Rogers, to those level of guys coming in. I think that's why we're getting such a high quality guy and why we have 2 back-to-back Blocko, recipients.
Yeah, I did say that was the last question, and I think it is the last question. But one other person did have an interview yesterday. And we're an hour and 2 minutes into this episode, and it wouldn't be right. It wouldn't be an episode of the Buckeye Roast if we didn't fire this motherfucker, Parker Fleming. I am so pissed off. I have this big stream this afternoon. I have to write a show this morning, and I'm scrambling for pre-show production. I'm getting Chris Drew in here. I'm trying to get the show written, and I'm like, I got to watch this Parker Fleming interview. And this motherfucker wasted 15 minutes of my morning saying absolutely nothing and confirming exactly what we knew coming into this. This motherfucker is useless. He says he gets asked 3 questions every year as special teams coordinator in fall camp. Who's the kicker? Who's returning kicks? Who's returning punts? This motherfucker had one answer. Emeka Ibuka. Wow, man, how did you come up with that? The number 1 wide receiver in the country returning kicks, man. If there is not a more wasteful use of Ohio taxpayer dollars than this man's salary, I don't know what is. Let me know in the chat, because I don't think there is something. So I just had to get that off my chest. I was having a good morning. I enjoyed all of the interviews. I got to him. It pissed me off, and I had to get that off before we ended the show.
That is your Fire Parker Fleming segment, brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts.
But we appreciate you guys all pulling up for today. That's all I really had to get off my chest. There's really not much more to dive in on him. The kicker battle rages on. We don't know who's going to be returning kicks. So shout out to Parker Fleming for letting us know the same guy that returned punts last year will be returning punts again. Q, let the people know where they could find you.
Well, first, my quick message is Parker Fleming. It's not that hard. Jaden Ballard return kicks. Let's not get Emeka hurt. Let's let Lorenzo Styles return punts, and let's go on from there. If you want to find me, City Boy Quitting on Twitter, you can see it right below me. Flying to Johnson on Instagram. Minor League Films on both TikTok and YouTube. Talking movies. If you're interested in that, come on over. Ron.
If you want to find me on Twitter, you can find me at 2_TEES. That's 2 T's. You can find me on Twitch at the same thing. You can find me on TikTok at 2Shiesty. You can find me here every morning, Monday through Friday, for the Buckeye Roast with my guy Q. And you can find us Sundays with our guys Mike and Cam for Buckeye BS. We appreciate you guys all pulling up this morning. And make sure you guys pull up at 2 p.m. Eastern today. I will be live in the Bleacher Report app. Make sure that you like Ohio State as your favorite team and look for me in the team thread. We will be live doing an Ohio State season preview. I appreciate all of you pulling up this morning. A big thank you to Chris Drew for filling in this morning, and we will talk to you in, I don't know, 5 hours.
Yeah. See you soon.
Have a good one, guys.
Yeah.